Good morning, Year 12 VCAL students. Hope you're having a productive lockdown so far. What we're going to be doing today is starting to analyze the data from the homelessness surveys we've got. So as you can see, everyone recorded a bunch of data, sent in a folder. I've put them all into one document. The main cause here isn't really ready to be used yet. That needs some more cleaning up, but everything else is clean. So we've got age range here, all the same. Gender identity, male, female, prefer not to say, and non-binary, all written the same. So on and so forth, and the rest of them. There are a couple of holes there if there was no data, like sufficient services is yes, no, or nothing. And similarly, donate, no, yes, or nothing. But we're good to go now and actually analyze some of the data on all of these except for what people thought the main cause of homelessness was. And what I want you guys to work on today is making some pie charts. Right? And so there's a problem at the moment with the data we have. We can't use it directly to make pie charts because they need numbers of things. Right? Pie charts compare what proportion of people think one thing, what proportion of people think another thing, what proportion of people do one thing, do another thing. There's got to be a proportion. Right? And so we need some way to add up the different kind of responses we've gotten. And so what you should do is always leave your data in one spot. So I've got the raw data down here in its own little tab, and I've got my analysis data over here in its own tab. I'm just going to use this spot here to get a bunch of values, work out how many people have thought different things using Excel's formula features. For example, very simple one, I'm just going to start off with what's our gender breakdown? How many men do we have? How many women? And then how many prefer not to say or are non-binary? The way we're going to do this is using what's called the COUNTIF function. So if you go into a cell in Excel and you type equals, this means it's a formula, and it's going to just fill this cell with whatever the value of the formula you put in is. And so we're going to be using COUNTIF like this. So you type in COUNTIF, open up a bracket, and the first thing we put in here is going to be the range. So the things it's going to count in, and then the second thing is going to be the criteria, the actual specific thing to match up. It's saying in this range, how many of our values are this particular value? And so if I go over back to raw data without clicking anything else, you'll see up in this formula here, I'm still writing my COUNTIF, but now I'm doing it over pulling data from raw data section. I can drag down all of the columns in the gender identity, like so. That's my range now. If I hit comma, it highlights criteria. So I've got my range. It's all of the male, female, non-binary, let's say data. Now for my criteria, I need to write in what thing am I trying to match. I was trying to match male, so I put in a pair of quotes, and inside those quotes I go equals, oops, caps on, equals male, like that, and then I close my brackets, got my range, got my criteria. When I hit enter on that, it should show me how many men I have, and indeed it does. What I can do now is I can just use this formula and just copy it down to all the other categories I want to take. And so the important step here is to put in a $ in front of the number so it doesn't start moving the range I'm taking. So I put the $ in there. Now when I copy it over to the next cell, it will print the exact same thing out every single time. All I have to do now is go back here and change from matching male to matching female, or to matching prefer not to say. And you need to obviously be careful that you're writing it exactly how it's written over there in the cells. But if I change those to male, female, prefer not to say, and non-binary, you can see I get 39 men, 31 women, 3 and 3 for prefer not to say and non-binary. Once you've got your data like that, making the pie chart is the easiest part. All you got to do is highlight all of your data, insert, go over here to the pie chart looking symbol. 2D pie chart will do just fine. And you can see now I've got a pie chart with women in orange, men in blue, prefer not to say is grey, and non-binary is yellow. I can easily adjust that if I didn't want anything other than men and women. I could switch back like that, but keep it the whole thing for now. And put a chart title in, you just click this box here and write in what you want. So we can do gender distribution. That's our first little bit of data. Now, of course, we don't just want one thing of data. We don't want to look at one thing at a time. We want to kind of look at more than one thing. And so I've set up here a little battle of the sexes. Who said they were more likely to donate? Was it the men or was it the women? Obviously, it's not actual people's donating statistics, but it's what they said they'd do at least. And so here now I want to see, looking only at the men, how many said they donate, how many said they wouldn't. Then looking only at the women, how many of them said they donate, how many of them said they wouldn't. What's the bigger proportion? I'm going to use the exact same idea, COUNTIF, but because there's multiple categories, we need to actually use COUNTIFs. So just an S in there for it to be plural. And this is exactly the same thing as before. We've got our range, we've got our criteria, but then there's these dots, and they're telling us that we can keep putting in more and more ranges and criteria. It's only going to count if all of them work. So I'll give you one example of how this goes. I'd hop back over to my raw data. Again, my first one is going to be, are they male or are they female? So I'll drag this down here again. And I'll go exactly the same as last time, equals male, my first range, my first criteria. Now my second range and my second criteria are going to be for if they would donate or not. So I go over to the donate column, I drag that one down. Bottom there. And this one I think was would donate. So I see my comma in, I'll do equals yes. And this should now only show me all of the men who would donate. It's not going to show me, one or the other, but it has to be both of these things at once. This in, I now get 29, which makes sense. That's some portion of the 39. So that's looking good. Again, make sure you $ all of these numbers here so that when I copy this down, it will keep working. Like so. And then I'll put it in for women as well. Now I have to go back and change the different categories. So this is still men, but now it's would not donate. So I go back here and change my yes to a no. Women would donate, go change my male to a female. And then here I need to change my male to a female and my yes to a no. Like so. And so now I've got portion of men that would donate, 29. Would not donate is 8. I can highlight that. Same as last time. Insert 2D pie chart. Proportion of men who would donate. And then same thing for the women. And we can now actually compare, which people were more willing to say they would donate. Based on what we've got here, it looks like the men, the blue part is bigger, and so a higher proportion of them said they would donate than the women did, but only by a small amount. And of course, we're just relying on what the people are telling us. But that's kind of the first little analysis we've done on our data. Now, your job today is going to be to make a couple of pie charts of your own. Think about what kind of things do you want to see, what kind of graphical bits of data do you want to look at. Maybe you just want to look at one simple thing like this, gender distribution. Maybe you want to look at age range, whatever it might be. And then try and have a go at making one where you're looking at two things at once, right? So start thinking about, if I look at a specific age range, how many homeless people do they think there are? Or do they think there's sufficient services? Or whatever it might be. Think of a pairing that you think will work well or that you think is interesting and give that a go. Pairing that I think would be interesting personally would be sufficient services and donate. I'm wondering, if people say there is sufficient services, are they likely to donate? I mean, maybe it makes sense they wouldn't because they already think it's sufficient services. But if they think there's not sufficient services, then would they be more likely to donate? This person wouldn't be, but maybe it makes sense that if they think we need more services, you've got to contribute to that. Of course, there are other factors. They could be, poor in a rough financial situation, or they think that the money doesn't get used efficiently, whatever it is. But I would like to see, how do these stack up? Are you more likely to donate if you think there is or isn't sufficient services? Maybe if you think that this person here thinks there is sufficient services and they want to donate anyway. Maybe they think that there are sufficient services, but it's important to keep contributing to their upkeep and making sure that there will be in the future because they think it's that important of an issue. But that's your job for today. Make some pie charts, practice using this COUNTIF function in Excel to take a range of data and then just pick out the number that fit a certain criteria. Best of luck.